Alright, hello everybody. Today we're going to be talking about some important concepts for the upcoming Champions Meet. I want to address stat distributions, especially for frontrunners. I want to talk about Seruru's video, applying some of the context into that video as well. I'm going to be talking about Maruzensky, how to build her and how to beat her, and also we are going to be updating the tier list a little bit because after experimentation and looking at some of the horses, I realized that I need to glaze Gold Ship a little bit more, and I need to glaze Meishu Doto quite a bit more as well. Right, so let us begin first off with the stat distributions for the different positionings. Right, this is a medium CM with 2 uphills. For uphills, power is a very important stat, and we are basically looking at also a wide stat distribution compared to Cancer Cup, which was fundamentally just 3 stat lines. We only needed speed, power, and wits, and then hit a certain amount of stamina, right? But now we need stamina, we need power, and we need wits. And getting more stamina is not that bad because you have more protections against debuffers, which are a very common and easy strategy. I want you all to consider that in JP, after they lifted the ban for debuffers, it became the second most built team. Why? Because it's easy and it enables your other horses to become stronger. Debuffing is basically like nuclear bombs. I have a bomb, I'm punching you for free, right? And you don't have a bomb, so you're not going to punch me back. And so because of that, it's a little bit incentivized to basically bring a debuffer of some sort to make the enemies weaker in some way so that you'll be able to punch each other in the face at least. Otherwise, it's just one-sided beating. Right, so that's what I think debuffers are. And also debuffers tend to be very easy and very meta, and people love to be meta and win their games. Why? Because they get gems and also get that fancy platinum title. Right, so that's why I think debuffers are going to be very common in this medium CM, especially after Taurus Cup, where people has witnessed debuffers. Even in Cancer Cup, people were running Nice Nature still because debuffing was very cheap and very easy, and due to the accelerated schedule in Global, people are getting some massive burnout. So it's definitely very hard to keep up with the content creation for stuff like this, and also very hard to give you guys the context to all of this stuff. But essentially, debuffing is actually very cheap, very easy, and so people will be doing it for this Champions Meet. Even though some people really hate it, just understand that you are in the minority. A lot of people will just lean towards making a debuffer, or sometimes even all in on debuffing. Okay, so that's pretty much the understanding for this CM. So there will be debuffers, and that is both a good thing and a terrible thing for certain positions. Alright, so starting off with the front runners, what kind of stat distributions are you looking for? Like Seruru said, 850 stamina, 350 guts. That is a very good stat line to go in for, and basically 1200. If you go and add both of your stat lines for your stam and guts to 1200, that's roughly correct already. You'll be able to survive. You want to add 2 golden recoveries for good consistency of activation for your recovery, and also because you need to protect yourself against additional debuffers that are hitting you. As a front runner, you don't have to worry about all-seeing gaze too much, right? Because you get to avoid it. You just run all the way in front and you basically avoid the gaze. The only things that can hit you are Mystifying Murmur, and it's not 100%, right? Sometimes people don't build their nice natures really well. Sometimes the Mystifying Murmur requires a blocking condition, so if they don't get blocked, right, then they don't fire the Mystifying Murmur. So that's also another possibility, right? Sometimes they don't build enough power on the Nice Nature, then she falls all the way behind and she just misses altogether, right? Then, there's so many different ways that Nice Nature can fail to activate that actually, as long as you protect yourself against a certain level of debuffs hitting you, you should be fine. Not everyone's going to min-max their debuffer. People will be throwing in their Taurus Cup debuffers. Sometimes they don't even have the front runner hesitance, subdues, and flustered to go and target the specific positions. Okay, so that is basically the stuff I want you to understand. You will not get hit by every single debuff all the time, but some of the time, you'll get hit by all of them. Alright, it's not going to be a very common instance, right? So, these are basically correct to follow the Seruru stamina and guts. That will basically be enough to protect you against about 2 to 3 Mystifying Murmurs, for example. So that should be sufficient protection for most situations. Okay, if you ever get like a lobby of 4 debuffers and they all manage to fire, then you know what, forget it, you just die. But have a backup plan in that situation. Alright, have a backup plan. Okay, so that is the first thing for frontrunners. The second thing is, do I prioritize my power or my wits? There are some free-to-play players or low spenders that are not able to actually hit the stat lines that are being recommended, and that is why front-running is really a whale strategy, right? You want to get stam and power and wits and speed at the same time. It's very hard. And so because of that, for Maruzensky, you want to actually prioritize the power more than the wits. Why? Because with the power, right, if you secure that first place, it's very hard to overtake you if the power is about the same. But if the power difference is like 100-200 and the backliner hits Pump Some Iron, you're going to die immediately, right? So Swimsuit Maruzensky is actually very easily defeated. Yes, you want to get wits because you need to activate your skills, you need to get to the first place, you need to activate your groundwork, you need to activate your angling and scheming. Yes, but with 400, it's not 0, it's 70 something percent still. So you still have a pretty okay chance. Higher wits is great for position keeping and improving consistency. But even if you're consistent at taking the front, if your power is so shit, you will actually die to someone with higher power. So do take note that power is highly valuable for this Champions Meet. If I had to choose one of the stats, I would choose power. The best way would be to set thresholds, so you'll be able to beat most of the weaklings, right? Go for something like 700 to 800 power, and after that, go for 400 to 500 wits. Since Maru already has 15% wits bonus, you just focus more on the power gains, and for the wits, you just click it a little bit during the summer, and you should be generally good to go already. Alright, do follow Sarira's video for the racing timings for Maru, because I'm not going to talk about racing timings for these horses. Alright, you have to do one specific green race, if I remember correctly, then you can get additional SP bonus. Alright, so that is pretty much the thing about Maru. And then what about other front runners? You can make them. I've seen some Smart Falcons already meet the stamina requirement, right? This is high effort. You need to get the turf to A or S, and you also need to go and get the stamina to pretty good. You want to get some golden recoveries, and you want to make sure you have enough stamina and power and speed to try and win the game. Smart Falcon is a viable horse, Saiyan Sky is a viable horse, but against something like Swimsuit Maru, which is very easy to min-max and very easy to get that golden recoveries inside of her, it will generally be more consistent and stronger than every other horse, and it's also much easier, right? Because you still have to do all that groundwork shit for every other front runner, so it's going to be harder for every other front. But do know that Smart Falcon and Seiyun still can win. Alright, it's just harder and more RNG. If you have more power, more wits, more skills activations, you can actually beat Swimsuit Maruzensky sometimes. Alright, so that is something to take note of if you are an Oshi enjoyer for any of these front runners. Moving on to the pace chaser position, Doto and Oguri need more glazing. Alright, first off, Doto is a gambling horse for the pace chaser position. She has stamina bonus and guts bonus, meaning she hits those requirements very easily. And then after that, you just inherit power and pump that speed as much as possible. And you basically have a very, very powerful horse with race planner, and then you get swinging maestro, and then you have a gambling unique. That unique activates during the acceleration phase, but with that, plus Taiki, plus your Maruzensky, right? As long as you are in 3rd, 4th, 5th, basically, you just straight up win the game. Right, it's very, very powerful. Do take note of this horse. Oguri Cap is, of course, a very, very solid horse as per usual. Right, you inherit Taiki, Shuttle, Maruzensky as much as possible, and you can go and win the game off of that. Right, after that, we go to the late surger position. For the late surger position, while it is true that Majiro Ryan, Vodka, Grass Wonder, all are still viable gamblers, right? Do note, you are literally right there with the other debuffers, and All Seeing Eyes will basically always be in range. It's almost guaranteed to hit you unless you happen to be behind the Nice Nature somehow, which can happen. Okay, it can happen. Okay, so do note that this is risky. Right, it is risky. But if you get a lobby with somehow not a lot of debuffers, maybe you found all the Oshi enjoyers, triple runner horses or triple something horses, right? Maybe you can actually find a lobby like that. Majiro Ryan is incredibly powerful, alright? Literally, with just her unique alone, without any other uniques inside of her, she just wins the whole game, just by herself. The other problem with the late surger position is you can't get recoveries onto them, right? Easily. You can only get swinging maestro. And because of that, right, you only have one recovery if 3 debuffs hit you with only 1 golden recovery and 850 plus 350, right? You will die. You are guaranteed to die. I checked this on Uma later. You will basically lose to anyone that passed the stamina check already. If you only get hit by 2, you are still okay. You can actually win a lot of people. But 3 or more, you are in a bit of trouble already. Alright, quite a bit of trouble. So do take note of that when it comes to the late surger positions. Alright, while they are strong, the amount of lobbies without debuffers I feel are not going to be that common, especially since debuffers are easier and the CMs are accelerated, so people have no time to make actual good horses, so they'll just default to debuffers. Okay, so do take note of this thing. It's not that they are weak, they are hella strong. It's just that they are literally in the firing range of the debuffers sometimes. Okay, so yeah, take note of that. After that, I want to go to Encloser, and I'm going to glaze the hell out of Ghost Ship, because Ghost Ship is super strong. Ridiculously strong. I actually underestimated how strong this horse is. Yes, Go Home Specialist does not work. However, she still has Anchors Away. She still has Pump Some Iron. Take note, there's going to be a lot of debuffers. Debuffers are free placement. You overtake them during the last spurt, correct? So when you are overtaking them already, with the Ghost Ship unique and all of her other speed skills, the one Ghost Ship that will go in front of the other Ghost Ships hit number 6, hit number 5, win the game, straight up. right? So this is a very, very, very powerful horse. And this is once again going to be Ghost Ship's world, right? There are ways to just basically dump the stamina on Ghost Ship, only have one recovery, which is quite risky. Yes, it's quite risky. But if you dump the recovery, you get more power, more wits. You are actually able to basically afford more gambling stuff. You can go and get more uniques if you want to. You can go and get more speed skills if you want to. Literally, you can go for a borderline acceptable Ghost Ship in terms of stamina and go for more win rate on this Ghost Ship. So it's a bit like gambling, but this Ghost Ship has a 70-80% chance to activate her golden recovery, her only one golden recovery, and that is enough to win her the game, right? And also she's super easy to get good power, right? Because she has 10% power bonus and 20% stamina bonus also. So Ghost Ship is incredibly easy to build and incredibly powerful. Do not get straight away spurt. I saw someone comment that he grinded for straight away spurt. Please don't do that, okay? Please do not grind straight away spurt. This map is not the right one for it. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the Ghost Ship Glazing. Then I want to talk about Wedding Mayano. For Wedding Mayano, I did recommend either the hybrid or the debuffer build, or even a full ace build if you're an Oshi enjoyer, right? The thing about the hybridized build that you need to understand is that if you buy the Mystifying Murmur, you are sacrificing skill points in order to go and get that. So you basically are fully relying on hitting that debuff and then hoping that everyone dies, and then after that you are going to win with lower wits, right? Compared to a debuffer, a full debuffer Mayano Top Gun Wedding, right? It's going to be a bit harder to fire off that Mystifying Murmur. So do take note of that, alright? The hybrid is like middle of both worlds. It's half an ace and half a debuffer. So you want both halves to actually work, which is also a bit of gambling. But where isn't there gambling in Umamusume, right? So if you want to go and do that, go ahead. If you want to do full debuffer also, can, right? So yeah, do take note of all of these different things, yes, for building up your team comps. Okay, team comps are very, very important. Always try to have a backup plan if possible, and if you're all in, then you're all in. All you need to do is hit one time and you still get your platinum, okay? So yeah, that's pretty much it for the stat distributions. The thing I want to talk about mainly is actually for front runners. Do try to prioritize the power if you can over the wits. The power is hella important, I'm telling you. Okay, after that, for your backliners, the Ghost Ship, right, is really strong because you can get more power on her. And then Mayano Wedding with Nice Nature is also a very powerful stamina combo because the more debuffs you slam onto your opponents, the more painful it is. The less stamina they have, even worse their speed. Right, the speed will just drop like a truck. And the stamina debuffs are more effective early on when all the enemies are noobs, and later on, if the enemies are greedy, it's also effective. But if they are very tanky in terms of stamina, then they have lower power, they die to your higher power backliner. Or you just hit them with speed debuffs instead. Ignore the stamina at that point, and then you just target their speed directly, and you can still die to a backliner. Right, very, very important things to go and understand for min-maxing just that little bit more for that increased win rate. Okay, so that is all the stat distributions I want to talk about for the different positionings over here, right? Zero is not wrong. Swimsuit Maru is very strong. Ryan is very strong. It's just that these two positions are very, very sus sometimes, right? Because now we're going to talk about how to basically beat Swimsuit Maru and how to build Swimsuit Maru, okay? So how do we build her? There are some things that I want to clarify. There is a way to put Maruzensky's unique onto Swimsuit Maruzensky, which is basically using her as a grandparent. If she's a grandparent, and if you want, you can double the chance by putting her on both sides. You can try to hit the inheritance from her. But do not, because she is basically breeding herself, she is 0% affinity for both sides, which means that she gives you nothing, right? Very, very low chance, very low chance. But you can still hit it, all right? This strategy, I only recommend to people who already have a lot of speed skills and very good stat lines, right? To go and hunt down for the unique and get more acceleration. Right? Because if you forget, right, you still need to go and get your greens. You still need to go and get your groundwork, and you still need to get your stat lines and rainbows. If you go and do this, right, where you put the Marus in the grandparent slot, it's going to be much harder for you to hit the requirements that you set for yourself, right, depending on your deck. So do note that this is quite tricky, and that's why Bakushin is generally going to be the one I recommend. If you want any other usable speed unique, or if you want, just don't use any other unique. Just use for compatibility and increase the odds of you inheriting. Also a viable plan for you, alright? Because all of these things here, basically you're just trying to get as many speed skills as possible to fight for the front, or you can try to greed for the acceleration to go and maybe guarantee your win. But you can also do that by making sure your power is very high the moment you're in the front. Then you just activate your unique, in angling and scheming, and you just win the game. Alright, so that's pretty much the little min-max there for the S-Maru, and do focus on power more than the wits. Set thresholds for yourself depending on your deck, and then try to hit those thresholds and try to get medium S if you can, because remember, this horse doesn't really need any turf S like Smart Falcon, so it's a lot easier to try to get the medium S. Right, so yeah, good luck with that one. It's going to be a tough one, that's why I'm not doing it. Alright, so anyway, that's how to really min-max the building for the S-Maru. Then how do you beat her? You can use S-Maru to beat S-Maru. Yes, so S-Maru, if you basically look at it this way, right, in terms of skill point distribution and stat distribution, if you focus on 4 stats, you have to spread out the stats really wide. But now if I focus only on 3 stats, I don't care about speed anymore because I'm a blocker. I only focus on power and wits and stamina. I now make a blocker that will last all the way to the end with another innate recovery inside of her. Awesome. And then I get Swinging Maestro. And then after that, I get high power, high wits. I focus on these 2. Wow. I get insane stat lines on the horse. I also can afford more skills than the other horse because the other horse bought acceleration skill. My horse, I only buy speed skill. Now I have that advantage as well in the SP, and so in longer distances, you will find the blocker blocking more successfully than in the mediums and shorts, because for mediums and shorts, it is a game of just focusing on 3 stats because you want to get a lot of power in the shorter distances, while for the long ones, you have to sacrifice power for stamina. So it's an advantage to blockers because blockers don't give a shit about speed. They are still only focused on 3 stat lines the entire time. So if you want to kill S-Maru, there's nothing more efficient to kill her than herself. So yeah, do take note of that. In addition, there are also some ways that Seru has also mentioned, which is just don't play that game. Just don't add another frontrunner. If there's only one frontrunner, they die. They're just gone. You will easily kill them with any other backliner. It's super, super easy. Okay, so do take note of all of this, right? If you just don't play their game by playing only the backliners, you can actually make them die. And then if you want to, you can make an S-Maru blocker and guarantee the victories of your backliners essentially. I've seen some people do that strategy already in my server in the Cancer Cup. So it's a very, very powerful strategy. You can look for Robot if you want to. Robot is one Taishin and Ghost Ship main if I remember correctly. Right, so backliner main and he got his win. Right, very, very strong player. Okay, so that's pretty much the update for the Blocker Shin and Swimsuit Maru. And now we talk about the tier list update to the final tier list for the Leo Cup, which I will be editing from now on. Right, this is the last edit. We will only be pushing up Ghost Ship to S tier because this horse is just insane. You can get insane stat lines. Very, very strong horse. It's literally Taurus Cup again. Right? When is Ghost Ship not strong? Right? Especially for F2P players, Ghost Ship is just one of the strongest horses in this game. Right? And then I also had to lower Spare Chan because when I looked at it, right, I realized that Spare Chan would just be more of a survivor horse, but Ghost Ship is just a winning horse. This horse is really, really damn powerful. Do try to make a Ghost Ship. Or if you hate Ghost Ship like Urzi, then so be it. Just go and make your Oshis. Alright, remember that this is just a CM. Right, I'm just giving you the rough ideas on how to go and min-max a little bit more. If you don't want to do it, then don't have to do it. Right, for me personally, I also got no time. Right, making this content is very hard. And then doing my real life job is also very hard. So I have to do Pace Chaser Oguri and End Closer Ghost Ship. They are very easy. There's no straightaway spurt. There's no nimble navigator farming. It's just straight up just go and play these horses. And then Late Surger, Nice Nature, just copy paste from Taurus Cup. Don't even need to go and do any runs. I really don't have time to min-max my Nice Nature. Right? If I do have some little time, I guess I could do it, but I don't really want to. Right? Really no time for that. Have to go and prepare for the next cup afterwards anyway, right? Because Virgo Cup is also going to be a very, very short time after this CM comes. Right? So yeah, this is the last update to this guide. Hopefully this has basically given you the understanding and also why my tier list puts the Majuro Ryans and all the gamblers really low. It's because I really expect there to be a lot of debuffers, right? I expect there to be so many debuffers that most likely my late surgers will only win sometimes and the win rate will not be high enough to justify them, right? So yeah, that's my explanation for all of my tier list stuff over here. If you have any more questions, you can join the Discord and ask in the Discord. You can ask in the comment section. I take a look at them. I look at the most commented questions and I'll try to answer them in a future video. Otherwise, you can join the live streams. The live streams I try to educate people as much as possible. And the last resorts would be going to my Ko-fi and then DMing me, alright? I paywall myself because people were DMing me like crazy. And then also I have the Canva sheet, which is a very, very nice guide here, as you can see, to just kind of guide you guys on the rough understandings of what kind of stat lines you're aiming for, what kind of excels you're looking for, what kind of horses you're looking for, alright? This is just a rough guideline. There's a lot of little min-maxing that you can go and do furthermore, and if you want that, you can go and join the Discord. Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys, for all of this stuff here. Thanks for watching and thanks for all the support, because without your support, none of this can actually happen. Alright, thank you very much, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Good luck with your Platinum. Bye-bye.